All right, welcome everybody. So I'm sorry, what did you say? Is April coming? You know? Does anybody know?
Not sure yet. I just asked her. I haven't heard back.
Oh, okay. And then Mel, hopefully, and Ralph, possibly. All right. So let's we can get started anyway. Would someone like to approve minutes from last meeting?
I'll approve them.
That was Mari motions. And
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who's that?
Pam.
Pam. Thanks, Pam. I can't see, type, and hear all at the same time. Is my problem. So thank you. All in favor? Okay, good. All right. So Cindy reports that Ralph has joined the team officially. He was sworn in. Do you know when that was? Cindy?
I'm sorry, what's that?
You know when Ralph was appointed? There's Ralph. Hey, Ralph.
Today.
Ralph, maybe Ralph knows. Ralph, do you know when you were?
Yeah, Ralph, you're on mute.
It's official as of today.
As of today.
Yes.
Welcome. And here's Mary Ellen. Great.
There you go.
And we have Ralph. All right, great. So
somebody-
Ralph is now on the team. So you're not a guest, Ralph. Now you are actually a team member.
I'm honored.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we have, let's see, on our agenda, welcome. I think we're just possibly waiting for April some point here. So we can keep moving. So
We
Ralph,
might
welcome, Ralph.
We might
I
have
have, what's
joining-
up? I'm sorry, what's that?
we might have somebody joining from MetroCog. They have a
Somebody
new sustainable
Oh,
Connecticut intern. Her name's Quinn
I'm getting
Walters.
feedback. That's what it is.
So she should be getting on
Problem.
soon.
She's
Oh,
on as an
let me move.
attendee.
I just promoted her.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
thank
Who's on it as attendee? I have
Quinn.
Janet. All right, I have to move. Hold on. My
Her
internet
name
is
is-
bad.
Her name is Quinn, Kevin.
Quinn Walters. Yeah, I see her. She's on. She's from
Walters, okay.
MetroCog.
Oh, good.
She's our the summer intern for sustainable CT at MetroCog.
Super. Welcome. Thank you for joining us,
There she is.
Quinn. Thank you. Are there any other guests that I can't see? I can never tell if there's people I can't see in attendance or what's going on. So is
I
there
think that's it.
any other guests? Okay, so we have Janet as a guest and Cindy, of course, and Quinn. So Quinn, you are a summer intern, is that right?
Yes.
MetroCog? Well,
Yes.
welcome. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, you're welcome. I just have-
Yeah. Quinn was on the MetroCog CTAC meeting this morning. So it's great, perfect timing because for our meeting this afternoon. So
Yes, it is.
she can
Okay, that
jump in on some of the stuff that we're doing.
sounds good. I'm just typing here, so bear with me a second. Okay. So, I have on my agenda that we are going to just review meeting with George Estrada. If there's any further updates since our meeting with George, does anybody have anything on that they can provide it?
We were kind of chit-chatting before the meeting started, but George just emailed us that the new glass receptacle is being dropped off on Monday and they're ready to roll out the information. So Mary and I were going to, work on some of the social media outreach. Is there any other ways that the town wants to support promoting the program? maybe similar to the way we rolled out the help seat information. There looked like there was a town email sent about it. Could we do that as well?
I think that any way to get the information out would be great. Don't forget that we had Trumbull TV write us several months ago, just saying if we want to put anything on Trumbull TV for in-between
Oh, right.
programming, we can put up some sort of an announcement about it.
Yeah, when I spoke with Amanda, she was a little late on getting the info out because of timing of other things. But I think if we get her the information as well, that'd be another, round 2 of good news getting out there for what's going on. So, and I told her this was coming, awaiting the magnets and, the movement of the container. So she should be able to address that as well in the Trumbull Times and Connecticut Post.
So what's the, what is the, sorry, I gotta let my dog in, but what's the new glass container? What is that?
It's a big bin at the transfer station in which you put clean glass containers, wine bottles, peach, whatever you have that's in a jar, pickles, you have to rinse it out, you put it in there, and it's just purely glass recycling.
How is that different than what was there like the last couple of months? Is it the same thing, or they just filled it and they dumped it and they got a new one, or is there something different about the new one that's just
Same
coming in?
thing. We just haven't promoted it as a town and as a group.
Oh,
yet.
okay. Okay.
We're just
George-
waiting for the official go ahead.
Have
Yeah,
they
George is-
even, have they?
Yeah,
even
he was
filled it
waiting
up
for the
with-
oh, sorry, Kevin, he was waiting for the magnets to get in to put on there because of contamination. And so, people kind of, they see glass and they think it's ceramic and mirror and light bulbs, things like that that'll contaminate.
Right.
So they're gonna shift the container to the front so the attendant can see it, and then also put these on and hope that that helps. So it's been our pilot, the Trumbull pilot's a few months behind other towns, but hopefully we'll pick up.
All right, so we're gonna put magnet informational magnets, I guess we can say, right? On there.
So they were like magnets that blocked off. It says glass only, no plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is the same container. We haven't filled it yet, have we? It's still the same original one?
Yeah, I can't imagine it's full. I was there a couple of weeks ago and the thing was like, it was like
Thing's
dropping
massive.
something to the Grand
Yeah.
Canyon.
Things. Now, how
Nobody
do-
knew about it.
At some point, do they take it away, or do they take glass out of it, or what do they do? I mean, that thing's huge.
Yeah, they'll empty it. My question is, Pam, you and I worked on a nice summary page for the website. I think George said he had approved it at our meeting. He just didn't respond, but I think we should circle back and just double check and see if we can add that. I think that link to the town webpage with the information on it is
Yeah, I
what we
never
should be sharing on
uploaded-
social media, right?
I didn't upload it to Google. I still have it on
Okay.
my desktop. Did you update it? I'll check. I'll make sure that we have the
Okay.
most recent one.
So
And
I'm
we can,
thinking we should visually share the poster that's on the outside of the big bin now that says exactly what's accepted, and then share the link to the town page if it has info on it. That would be, to me, the cleanest set of resources, but so I can respond to George if that's okay, and we can hopefully get that going.
You want to put it on social media and the town website.
Yep.
and we can let Trumbull TV know,
Yep, and Trumbull TV.
and then we'll be at the farmer's market on June 30th and we can have information about it there.
That's good. Right. That's good. Is there any feedback on how well it's doing in terms of, what was anticipated as far as how much glass we were going to be able to expected to put in that? They were expected to receive or anything like that? I can't remember.
Fairfield moved quickly on theirs. Theirs was full pretty fast and they went for their
Really?
second container, but they started with their push on social media and I don't know if you remember the article that was in the Connecticut Post. I mean, they got good press very quickly and they were ready to go. We just, for whatever reason, we're just, behind a few months on getting that out. So hopefully once this happens, summer parties will, all those wine bottles and
Yeah.
mayonnaise jars to make pasta salad and all that. But anyway, hopefully we'll pick up and see that, that this is productive here. And then Ralph, because I know you're new, one of the things, it's a pilot program for this glass, which is with, I don't remember how many towns now, 8 other towns, maybe. There's two different pilot areas that are going on in the state. And it ends up that this is crushed glass, which goes into a concrete mix, which then they use. It's supposed to make the concrete stronger and it less of a carbon footprint. And then it gets the heavy weight of the glass out of our refuse system. So, and glass typically breaks and it ends up contaminating at the recycle station. So it's kind of like a lot of positives all put into this. So we're hoping to have some good information once all the results of the pilot come in, but just so you know kind of what we're talking about.
Thank you.
And as far as other things from the Georgia Strata meeting, I sent notes a week later with follow-up items, and I did not hear back about anything. So Cindy, would you be able to check with George on just some of the follow-up items? Obviously, the glass thing has moved along, but the community garden visit, I know Mel and I would love to get George down to that community garden in Westport. I know he's busy, but pick an afternoon, we can go at the end of the day. And I think there were a couple of other things that we needed his just feedback on or just response on. It would be great to have that.
I will check with him.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else there on the follow-up to the George meeting?
It was a fairly robust list of things.
It was. There was a few things on there.
I guess the question is, and this is an existential question and maybe not best discussed here. Tank, it's too early for lunch. Sorry, my cat is insisting. What are we doing? Like, I mean, what is our goal for the year and how supportive will the town be of the things that we would like to do? I guess that's the question I have in my mind.
Right. And we're sort of finding out by way of their response or non-response to these various initiatives. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm all gung-ho about the things that we proposed and have been since I joined this team a couple of years ago. But we do need town buy-in on most of the ones that we're looking to do now. Because some of the other things were easy. We had a pollinator pathway meeting, we did this, we did that. Some of those things we could just do ourselves. But now we're getting into the heavier duty things where we need the town's help. And if the town is not really that interested in participation support or they don't have time, that's cool. I just would like to know because I'll dig in my garden for 4 hours a week. I don't necessarily need to do this.
I mean, an example of this kind of frustration is that, the Conservation Commission put together and submitted, as we had planned on schedule, a town survey. We got the results of the survey. The data has been collected and analyzed. Before we formally release it to the public, we wanted to present to Vicky. And so I've been in a waiting pattern for almost, I don't know how many weeks now, for us to just at least somebody from this team and somebody from conservation to formally present this to Vicky so that she hears the data, because the data that's coming from the town survey will inform what we're going to do for the rest of the year. And it was pretty clear that the folks that responded to this survey, and there were almost 500 people, were very committed to going forward with tree replacement program and open space protection. And so we need, I think, Vicky to know exactly what the people want in terms of conservation, because this honestly is not a conservation oriented town. It really never has been. We don't have any conservation staff. And so sustainability and conservation relies on us as a group of volunteers and as my commission. And it's just been so frustrating that we haven't been able to present any of this stuff to Vicky. So at this point, I almost feel like just going and having it put in the paper and just have it released. It's not that there was anything negative in it, it was all very positive, but we really wanted Vicky to hear it first before we went public with it, because I think it's important for her. This is done during her administration. It's the first time we've had a survey.
So Mel, I had emailed you. I'm not sure if you had gotten it, but I didn't know if you wanted to combine, because I know there were a few things with that P&Z, the requirements that had come down from the state, which are mandatory now that were being rewritten or written in. If you wanted to coordinate all that as a presentation, like the next round for council, because at that, Vicky is there, George, Dimitri, Rena, perhaps, I mean, it depends on who's asked to be there and what other agenda items are at the time, but I don't know if that is a good time, because we have pretty much hit most of the people we have to present anyway. And it also, it's a good area to bring in some of the questions that you have and the priorities to say, as I said, if you want these regs in, when is the rewrite happening and how do we get these in? If it's not going to be a formal rewrite, here's the results of the survey. Where do we go next? Do we go to Parks and Rec? Do we present this here and it starts at the top? Does it go to the commission? But at least that gives us kind of a way, because I know there's at least 4 or 5 things that you have on your agenda that really should be full presented, including the survey.
Yeah, that would be great. I would be very happy to put together a formal presentation to town council on these issues. The planning and zoning, we're trying to get some of these regulations updated, and I have tried for the last 2 months to get onto the planning and zoning agenda to just talk with them about this, and both of the last meetings have been canceled because they didn't have any applications. So I offered that this would be a great time, since you won't have anything in the queue to talk about. Let's take those meetings and talk about these regulation updates that have been waiting for 2 years. And they just basically said no. So, it is getting frustrating, and I can certainly echo Pam's frustration and concern, because, this is an appointed, a created commission, Sustainable Trumbull. Conservation Commission is a formal commission, and I feel like we're being virtually ignored by the town staff. And, when you don't have conservation staff inside, we have no voice. We don't have any connection to the town other than to try and go to Vicky or George. So that would be great. Mary, I would love that. If I could just get a date for your next meeting, I will put together a presentation, and we'll go through the survey, planning and zoning regs, the new guidelines from the state. And, I really believe there's a sense of urgency from a sustainability perspective to get planning and zoning to update these regs, because we have 3, now I think 4 applications. 3 are in pre-application stage. And then another one that's coming before inland wetland that has really significant impact on wetlands. It's either, one of them is actually filling 5,000 square feet of wetlands, which I don't know how that even happens. It's not 1972. I really don't know how that phrase even is in an application. And then we've got 3 other pending applications that really need to be discussed, because one is like a building within 25 feet of the edge of the Pequannock River. And the other one is like 17 acres of really, really resilient landscape that is in the watershed, direct watershed of the Pequannock River. That's the one on Booth Hill Road in Unity. And these are in pre-application phase right now. So there's been no public hearing on them. But if we don't have updates to our guidelines and our P&Z regs, then we don't have any foundation to stand on, preventing these applications from doing the damage that they can do. And, it's not to stop development, but it's just to be much more cognizant of the land that's being developed now is super sensitive land. It's remained undeveloped for a reason, because it's wet and impacting our wetlands, which are our sponge landscapes at a time when we're getting rain bombs continuously is really not a good, it's not a good way to go. So, so yes, Mary, that's kind of a long way around. Yes, I would love to get these items, particularly these 3 big items, the survey, the P&Z, and the new state guidelines up before the team. And if that's the best way to talk to Vicky, then that would be great.
Yeah, let me coordinate with Ashley and with Cindy to make sure. I have to see what else is on the agenda for July, what other plans are on there. I personally think that's good timing. P&Z, I believe they are meeting in August. I'm not sure what all is going to be on that agenda, but I mean, I know public hearings, there is an opportunity to speak, but I do think it's important to get on that agenda as our group, you know, as conservation, as sustainability, but still get on the agenda. So I don't know how to make that happen, even pre-public comment. I mean, I don't know why it's not happening, but you know, it hasn't in the past when there were meetings. So that I think we really do need to figure out. So I see Janet has her hand up.
Janet?
You're muted, Jenna.
I clicked the wrong button. Okay. I don't know if it's politic. If we're having trouble getting onto agendas, is it politic to write a report and send it to all of the chair people and the commissioners of the entities that we want to know about this? I don't know, you know, like a summary step, I don't know, but if we're not being heard, maybe we can be read.
Well, I have, for the P&Z regulations, I have written very detailed letter to and copy the chair of the P&Z and some of the commissioners. And, you know, only one of the commissioners said to give him a call, and then I got a call back from the town attorney to talk to him. I mean, these are clearly not controversial things that I just want to talk about with them. These are regulatory issues that we need to update our regs for. So I have for P&Z, but they just haven't had meetings. So, you know,
So
to me, it seems like a down.
They haven't told you no. They just haven't been holding meetings. Is that correct?
They haven't been holding meetings, but I offered to them that if they do have a meeting, even though it doesn't have applications on it, this would be a great time to just talk about this, and it would take a half hour. And I've gotten a no to that. No, they're not meeting.
Yeah, I think it's just the sense that, you know, if there's no business to be transacted, there's really less of an appetite to call everybody together. So, you know, hopefully it's not, you know, it's not a no from P&Z, it's just a not right now. So, and the other thing I wanted to say was that I will talk to Vicky and remind her that you're interested in discussing with her. I know, you know, I haven't been around for a couple of weeks, but today is just a zoo. So it's just been very, very busy around here, but I will have a conversation with her and see if we can move that along.
Okay. That would be really helpful.
This is Ralph, if I might chime in, if Mary Ellen, what you're talking about is the rewrite, update effort on the planning and the zoning regulations. I would second your interest in getting that done. I was the economic development representative on the committee that worked on that, quite frankly, some years ago. I think we worked with P&Z, obviously, town staff, and a consultant out of Hartford, whose name now escapes me. This was a big job and a lot of work. And it was more than just updating, you know, business classifications and whatnot. You know, there are lots of businesses that have come into being since the old regs were approved, but it was also an attempt to make it user-friendly, as opposed to the old regs, which looked like a legal textbook and you had to get out a red pencil and trace your way through it. The consultants had an interesting look at how other towns had made the regs user-friendly, so you could quickly get to the information you wanted. There was no misunderstanding. And that work just sort of trailed off. I probably spent over 100 hours reading drafts. They were all good. I'm not complaining about anything. It just sort of went away. And I find that unfortunate because I thought a lot of progress was being made.
Well, I'm so glad that you were part of that, Ralph, because it was a lot of work. And if I recall, the consultant's name was Don Poland.
Correct.
Something like that. And he came to our Conservation Commission meetings at least 2 or 3 times. And we had very, very specific updates, recommendations that he put into the drafts, and the review committee that I guess you were on did approve what we were writing. For example, steep slope regulations to prevent people from clear cutting steep slopes.
Yep.
15%, or I mean, that's just that's a no-brainer. And so we thought that we were teed up, like we had presented the language, and then it just, I know COVID hit and it disappeared, but everything else seems to be functioning pretty well via even though COVID's here. We could have moved everything to Zoom, but it just stopped. And this is not a time to stop, because what happened now is we had, during this time, certainly building has increased here with apartment buildings, and I would have slept much better at night knowing that those regs had been approved prior to some of these applications that have been built in town. So I think we're on the edge of, continued development, and it's just so important to just get this done. It is the, it is the responsibility of our regulatory land use boards to do this, for planning and zoning to do this. And I'm not sure what the holdup is, but as a resident, 30-year resident of Trumbull, I feel like it's a violation of the public trust at this point, because we trust them to protect our landscape, our land, and update our regs as needed so that we're not stuck in 1972. And the fact that that's not being moved on, I just don't understand it. So I'm sure, I apologize. You can kind of hear the frustration from this group, and you could hear it in my Conservation Commission as well. But, there's a lot of work that I think is really teed up to be completed. And I think it'll put the town in a really good light if we update these regulations. And now, there's new guidelines from the state of Connecticut, and every municipality has to, in their planning and zoning regs, put in protections for watershed for Long Island Sound. So all 169 municipalities are responsible for having riparian buffer protections to protect the Long Island Sound. This is like the first time, and it's focused not on inland wetlands, but it's focused on planning and zoning. It's focused on zoning regs, which is very unique. And I think that's something that we should go forward with. So Ralph, I'm just delighted that you're on Sustainable Trumbull, because this, you have an understanding of the history of what.
Yeah, and I have no axe to grind here in terms of the content. I thought it was being brought into the 21st century. I think Don Poland really knows what he's doing. He's a character. He's a lot of fun to work with, but he doesn't pull any punches, and he tells you what he thinks. And there was a lot of modernization, shall I say, of the regs. And importantly, a lot of progress on what I call user friendliness.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you that I think this ought to be brought back to the table, because if it was a good idea then, it's probably a better idea now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like a necessity. It sounds like the state guidelines require that we update the P and Z regs, right?
Yeah, especially in as it relates to watershed protection for the Long Island Sound. So any of our waterways, the streams, the river, the lakes, you know, all kinds of wetlands, and they give us, they provide samples of other regulations, like how to do this, how to. So, you know, and this is something that MetroCog is trying to work with us on. The folks at WestCog, which is the other cog of like the 19 towns, the east in Fairfield County, are really on top of this. You know, this new law, what is it, 2129, I think, I can't remember the regulation again. I think it's PA 21-29. So yeah, I think this is a good time to just kind of bring this to light again. I think it's important.
So
And
Mel,
that-
are other towns doing an amendment on a specific section of the regs? Or, I mean, we don't have to wait for a full rewrite on the part that is mandated versus what we, like steep slope isn't mandated, but obviously we want it in there, so that'll be in the full rewrite. But since this is a mandate from the state, that I'm assuming needs to be, as I said, put in as amendments sooner rather than later, correct? Or am I wrong? I don't know the P and Z regs. Even Ralph, you may be more aware.
No, I'm not aware of whether you can just amend them or not. All I know is I would think we got through 90+% of the project. So I would just vote to finish it.
So Ralph, what I'll do is I'll send you the information, a link to the information with this new public act
Okay.
regarding the zoning, and you know, it could very well be that components of this new law are already have been integrated into our update, so we could be ready to go. So I'll send that to you because it's pretty interesting stuff.
Hey, Mel, am I wrong? Am I remembering something else? Weren't there native plant things we wanted written into some ordinances as well? Like there are a lot of towns around us like Monroe that have native plant requirements for municipal or businesses. Or there
Yes.
are, so I think that was also part of it we wanted to have added. in.
Yes, you're right. Thank you for reminding us about that. Yeah, so let's
Like
add
Monroe
that to
has
the
it, yeah.
list. Survey, zoning regs, new guidelines, and native plant recommendations.
Mhm.
I mean, inland wetland is totally on board with this. With the native plants, they do make recommendations because they have a landscape architect on their commission, so he gets this and understands it. But planning and zoning doesn't, because it's outside of their bailiwick, and they rely on the tree warden. But I think there needs to be some written recommendations for what kind of trees to be used, and
Right.
so I had offered and suggested that the Conservation Commission get to look at the zoning, planning and zoning applications in addition to the tree warden, just to make sure that this is being followed. So that was just another thing on our wish list. So yes, Pam, let's add that to the list.
Mari has her hand raised.
Sorry, yes, Mary.
Unmuting, sorry. Yeah, I think as we go back to Vicky with the list of asks of what we can do as a team, I think we need, I mean, just definitively, we need a sustainability plan, because I think to ask for individual items, while they're very valid, it's just we're missing the whole picture as a team. We're all sitting here like, you know, what are we working on? We're working on our projects that we've already established, and I'm glad to continue forward with all of those things I'm doing. But I think the town is just missing as a whole a plan. And it doesn't have to be an 80-page document. It just needs to be a discussion of which items is the town looking for support. And it doesn't have to be like, I know George is looking at energy, you know, renewable energy conservation. It just needs to be kind of like where does our team fit into doing those items? And we're here for a support to the town to relieve some of that burden and help with the legwork. So I just think that would be the ask of how can our team support creating a sustainability plan for
Or
the
do we
town?
create it? Do
I
we?
think that's what
create
they'll
it?
say. If I had to guess, she'll say, well, can you do it? And then come back to us and see if,
But
everything gets pushed back to us.
Right,
Generally.
but we can make a plan, but I don't know what the town, like, I didn't know the town was applying for 3 incentive applications for renewable energy, so I can't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like, it's
Yeah,
gotta be a collaborative effort, and where is the town with renewable energy, and where can our team support that? Maybe we can't, maybe the sustainability team is not being utilized for that action item, but it's a disservice to the town to not have a plan in place. Whether our team supports all of those, some of those, or none, it's just, there needs an organization, like if this was a company, I would have an organization to the agenda of what we're doing. That's all.
You have the business plan.
Thank you.
You have a
That was the word I
roadmap.
was,
Yeah, you'd have a
Yeah.
roadmap for moving forward, and then you'd
Yeah.
have teams for helping to implement that plan.
right. Otherwise, we're just kind of stagnant doing what we're doing. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's a good point. So Quinn, I wonder if you might be able to, you and MetroCog folks might be able to help us with that, like a sustainability plan for the town. I mean, we as a town and most towns have worked on the individual, 9 steps and achieving the points that we need to, and we have silver certification. But yeah, is there like a plan, a model plan that we can use to?
Yeah, I definitely, after listening to this conversation, I think I'm going to kind of talk with some of my supervisors at Sustainable CT. I'm still kind of getting myself familiarized with all of the benefits that Sustainable CT can provide, but I do know that they definitely provide like extra support to towns that are certified. And then there is like there's like I think considering that Trumbull, right, I think you guys are bronze certified. There's also or silver certified, excuse me, sorry. That I would recommend looking into getting, it's like climate leader delegates. But yeah, I think from listening to this conversation and in my role at MetroCog, I do think that both MetroCog and Sustainable CT, for that matter, could help like with building out an actual sustainability plan. And I'm actually curious if there are like what kind of the protocol is with other towns in creating like, because I mean, how new is like Sustainable Trumbull like as a committee?
About 3 years old, I think, basically.
And
But-
so yeah, I'm just curious what other towns are doing in terms of putting out a sustainability report or sustainability plan.
Yeah, some
you know-
towns like Fairfield has a whole sustainable Fairfield group. I'm not sure, somebody else can speak to exactly how it's organized, but it's a lot more well developed from the town standpoint than ours is. We have this team, whereas somebody can talk about anybody else talk about sustainable Fairfield and how they're developed, because we are sort of a bit bare bones. Trumbull always says, well, we do not have a lot of town staff to do things, so a lot of it's left to commissions and volunteers and so forth. So so you have to keep that in mind when in figuring out how to develop a sustainability plan when the town itself doesn't really have as many resources as some places like Fairfield and some of the other towns.
So I've raised my hand. I'm going to lower it now, but
Good.
I don't want to be negative, but I don't know that we should necessarily be working on a sustainability plan unless we know that the town is going to be either supportive of it or collaborative on it. And it's not because I don't want to do the work. I'm happy to do the work. I just don't know if I want to go through the machinations and the hours of putting something together if it's not going to be collaborative with the stakeholders in town that we need to execute some of the things that would be on that plan. And Mari made a very good point. You guys they were already working on these renewable energy things and we had no clue. I mean, we're not at the table. So I'm not trying to complain about it. I'm just trying to be pragmatic about where we spend our time and what's the best approach to get things done. That's all.
Can I ask, is a sustainability plan something that other towns have?
Yes.
Yep, you can go on.
Do they have, are these towns that have a sustainability department or?
What does Fairfield
Using
have? Somebody
Fairfield.
speak to Fairfield?
Yeah, you can use Fairfield as an example. You can go on their town website. You can pull up their sustainability plan. It's public. They have a very robust team there. They are volunteers, but they have a ton of municipal support. And now they have so many people on the sustainability team as volunteers that they have subcommittees. So they've really put the pedal to the metal. They're an example to follow if you were to follow another town. And there are other towns in the state that are also as robust, but Fairfield is our neighbor. And yes, they're bigger than we are, but if we could do, a quarter of what they've done, I'd be thrilled.
We started talking about the survey. Sarah Sterling was going to present, but she's not feeling well, right, Pam? Did you want to just do a real quick summary of what the findings were on that?
Yeah, I can. I know it was on the agenda, but so I want to mail it just as a very quick adjunct to the George Estrada meeting follow-up. We had talked about the recycling mailer that had gone out in 2012, and he was talking about educating the town, residents of the town about recycling capabilities and updates with the NIPS money that was coming in. And so I just got a quote from John Massari, who's on the Conservation Commission and has a printing business. And if we had 15,000 pieces made up that are exactly like this, it would be about $1,400. And that does not include postage. So just so you have that in your head, I have it here. And I will share my screen to bring up the survey. So I know we talked a long time, so I'm just going to try to be very quick so everybody gets an idea. And Mel, we mentioned that maybe you could talk as well. Can you all see the slideshow? There it is. Okay. So as mentioned earlier in the conversation, we had quite a few people in town respond to this survey. I mean, there was a survey in town that talked about the swimming pool. We had more than that. So we were thrilled with the responses we got. We wanted to hear from residents in the town what was important to them vis-a-vis conservation and the environment. So we certainly steered the survey in that direction. Here are the questions, and some things were asked multiple ways, multiple times, but if you had filled out the survey, you know what I'm talking about. So we wanted to quantify what the preferences were in town and also to use that information to plan strategically on the subject of conservation and sustainability. So it was very quick. I mean, it took you 5 minutes to take the survey. We did it for 2 weeks at the beginning of April, and it was open to anyone who lives, works, or just happens to walk the trails in Trumbull. It was public. We distributed it various ways, and there were multiple choice questions with the ability to write in some answers or to be more eloquent with your answers if you wanted to be. We were pleasantly surprised at how passionate and focused and articulate people were on the issues that concerned them. At least I was, and I know Sarah and Mal, you were too. So of the 435 responses we got, most of the people live in Trumbull, and then the rest either work in Trumbull or do both. They are important. These subjects of conservation and sustainability are important to residents. And the top three things were conserving open space, the quality of our water, and tree green space conservation. Time to restore the balance between conservation and development. I mean, if you drive up and down Daniels Farm Road and you see what is being put there, you can't but notice how tight those houses are. And so I think that and Moorfield Farm, these people are driving by these things and are not necessarily thrilled with what they're seeing. And as I mentioned, lots of passion as evidenced by the thoughtful write-in responses that we got. So here is just some summaries. 4 out of 5 people said natural resources should be a top priority for the town. And again, here are the top 3 things on the right. Residents expect the town to help. So importance of preservation of natural resources are part of a town planning. So you can see very important. And this is not gray. This is a black and white answer here. It's very important to most people. People seemed a little less motivated by the tree replacement program, but maybe they didn't know what that was. Who knows? But that was more than half of the respondents thought it was important. And importance that the town of Trumbull follows the recommendations to protect, and I can't read it because this, here it is, protection and buffers. So again, 77% of the people who responded thought that was very important. Development should be balanced. 1 in 3 people said that economic development should be a top priority for the town. And here are some of the write-in responses, which I won't read to you because you guys are excellent readers. But 2 out of 3 are concerned about overdevelopment. So the balance is evident here. People think we need more restaurants in town. I mean, if you go to Echo, you can't park, right? So there's a need for more places to go, but do we need to put 32 houses in 9 acres? You know, those kinds of things obviously are of a concern to the people who responded to the survey. The raw data question summary, we'll breeze through this in the interest of time. But what should top priorities be for Trumbull? Choose up to 3, and you can see natural resources was almost 80%. Schools, I mean, people move here for the school system, so I'm not surprised by that. Street repair and maintenance, also very high. Popular write-in topics, and this could be that, you know, 5 people wrote in, but so take this with a grain of salt, but people were concerned about the pool. As always, people are concerned about their taxes. There were a number of people who commented on Trumbull Center and what a disaster it is, but we have, I think, 1 person or a company to blame for that. Traffic flow, tree preservation, etc. So we want to specifically ask about natural aspects of Trumbull. Choose up to 3 that matter most to you. Again, conserving open space, very, very high responses, quality of water, accessible trails. So, you know, these speak for themselves. I was pleased as someone who is kind of a newbie to this, but I'm big on invasive plant removal. I was pleased to see that people were commenting on the amount of invasive plants around town, the Japanese knotweed, get rid of it. So I was surprised by it, but I was happy to see that. So top environmental priorities, again, as I mentioned before, some of this is a little redundant, but this is just the specific questions that came in. Maintaining the trees and green spaces around town, very, very high compared to other responses. And then popular write-in topics, again, eliminate invasives, yay. And then composting pickup, which is interesting because we already have a company that comes to town to pick up composting, but maybe we need to do a better job in informing. Trailhead garbage cans, which I think everybody on this team who has picked up litter would love more of those. And just questions about what do you do in your own home? So, you know, I thought these were interesting. Look, 56.8% for native plants and pollinator pathway, Mel. Yay. I was surprised that only 15% came in for solar and renewable energy, but maybe that's because people just haven't dived in yet. I mean, I see a lot of panels around town, but maybe that's just me. What concerns do you have about what you see around you in town? Again, overdevelopment. Too much clear cutting on private properties. I mean, we know 9 acres or whatever it was over by on Daniels Farm Road. What was it, 9 acres? Just completely clear cut in nesting season. It was just broke our hearts, right? So you see this over and over again from the respondents. Zoning enforcement was a write-in. Conservation and zoning regs. So going back to what we talked about quite passionately about 10 minutes ago, comes up from people who don't even work on our commissions. So would you be interested in learning about any of the 3 below, or choose up to 3 of the below? And we had a bunch. Trails and parks, native plants, removing invasives. So all those things we can do at the farmer's market on the 30th, but maybe we need to find other ways of informing people about those things. Improved recycling systems. Well, the glass helps with that, but I think food scraps and composting should be another priority. And how do you get information about what's going on in town? This was an interesting one because, I mean, we post things to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we hope something gets in the Trumbull Times. But here's how people said they heard about what goes on around in town. 60%, 61% of people go to the town website, which great. It's good to know because I think we've done a pretty good job of keeping our end of that website updated and well informed. But if you just go to the town website, how do you know where to go? Maybe there's a way we can help with that. Town emails, if you're subscribed to town emails, I only get 1, but you can get many more if you subscribe to them. Word of mouth, 55%. So you talk to your neighbors. Someone said their mom tells them. So I think that was actually somebody on conservation. My mom tells me everything. But here are some of the write-ins. Trumbull has the most parkland per capita. How important is it to you? So obviously, again, redundant, but it's very important. Our parks are very important to the residents that responded to this survey. We mentioned the tree replacement program, and we worded this particular question very carefully so that it informed as well as asked the question. So we asked, this is the way we formed that question about tree replacement. And again, that was 55%. And then we talked about following riparian and clean water recommendations and laws, and 77% that said this was very important. So the next steps we outlined were to talk to Vicki. We want to do this relatively soon because when you put out a survey like this, you don't want it to just go into an abyss. You want to be able to respond back to the people who took their time and say, here's what we're willing to act on immediately. We heard you, here are some of the responses. So I think it's important that we have accountability on what we asked for. And then blast it out through social, newspaper, town emails, the responses, and what we are able to or planning on doing to support those passions. And then we need further support of the initiatives. And we mentioned the tree plans, P&Z, and IWWC. So I don't know if we have time for the detail. That's already 4 o'clock, but we're happy to share these. Here's some write-in things if you just want to eyeball them really quickly. Mel, are there any here that you want to point out in particular?
No, I think they're all pretty good.
Yep. Law and order, get tough on crime. A commuter shuttle bus to train. I would have liked that when I was commuting. A new pool. And increase the budget for trees. Somebody wrote, like I said, the very passionate, articulate, thoughtful responses on this survey that we were encouraged by. Trumbull Center came up again and again and again, and with Zanardo owning what he owns, I don't know what we're going to do about that. I mean, it is what it is right now. And then the top 3 things in Trumbull that matter most to you. Open space was the top vote getter, quality of water, accessible trails, protecting wildlife, trees, and air. So, I mean, if you're responding to an environmental survey, obviously there's a reason why. It's because you care about the environment. So you could be cynical about it and say, of course, you're going to get these responses. But I think we were really jazzed by the thoughtfulness that people put into their write-in responses, and that they took, and the number of people that took the time to take the survey. Just a couple more write-in things. And then I think this is getting to the end of the presentation.
If you go back one, I'm sorry.
This one or the one before it?
One before that. There was one comment that kind of really blew us away. An unnecessary mall condo construction displacing wildlife. And this phrase, "stop acting like you care," just really, at our Conservation Commission, just kind of knocked us off our feet. You know, maybe we're a bit more sensitive about it, but yeah.
We do care.
Do you care? We do care. We're trying, but that's something I think we should need to keep in mind. We have to actually, actions speak louder than words on this stuff.
I think there were some people who were passionate about things that, you know, maybe had an axe to grind, but Twin Brooks came up, I think, at least a couple of times. Like, what are you doing there? So, you know, you're always going to have naysayers who don't understand or don't approve of things, but just, you take the whole thing, I think, as a whole. If you take it as a whole, you see what people are passionate about in town. And composting pickup. Well, I'd love to know who asked for that. I'd send them an email. But they do mention Newtown has a program where town residents may pick up ready compost material if they contribute to the program with their leaves. That particular item is the reason why I joined Sustainable Trumbull, and a lot of towns have composting programs similar to that, that if we ever get our transfer station up and running in a new layout, we could do it. We could do it. So, garbage cans and poop bags on trails like other towns, pesticide use in our parks. So more about invasive species. I was very surprised that people knew about what Japanese knotweed was, besides just a few of us here, but people are very educated when it comes to the environment, more than you
Can I say one thing, Pam? I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but back to poop bags. Tonight at Parks and Rec, the Girl Scouts are going to be back. So they're on the agenda where they are coming with the poop bags. That sounds terrible. With the dog disposal bags, but they are coming back with a suggestion to put forward, and they're thinking about also asking the community to then donate kind of on an ongoing basis to continue the supply of those, because I know the commission was concerned about that. They are removing from their recommendation the garbage can, which would have been attached to that, because the commission unfortunately was not pro that. So, but just so everybody knows, they will be there tonight. I'm hoping to go to the meeting tonight, because I think they're a fabulous little group, but I'm glad they're still doing that. And then they will be, again, pushing that whole PR of, you know, pick up after your dogs and everything along that. So
Well,
one good thing.
I think that, you know, I can't be there tonight, but I think someone, if they won't put bins there, they need to put signs there, because before there were bins at the end of Tate and Whitney, people just threw their bags on the side of the trail. And it's great that we're going to be supplying poop bags and hope people do the right thing, but they just leave them. So it's really disgusting.
Yeah, they have, I think that's part of their campaign, realizing that. So I didn't look at the sign yet per se. I saw that they were on there. I was looking on my phone, so I didn't blow the sign up to see what it said. But I know they were putting a campaign around that, but you're right. It's one thing to bag it. It's another thing to leave it. We find people bag it and they leave it there. So it's crazy.
Why?
But anyway, I was really proud of these girls for continuing. So
It's great. Prioritize walking and biking, reduce the noise of loud cars. I don't know how you do that, but there were people who were worried about congestion. And we talked about this already. So I don't think we need to go into all the specifics throughout the whole thing, because I know that we're tight on time. We talked about this already. These were some thoughtful write-ins. So do something about Trumbull Center again, plan apartments in gentle density like duplexes to keep us prosperous. So not everybody was just like, stop developing. They were pragmatic responses to how do you keep your tax base going while, you could make these apartments energy efficient too. And then here's some of the other thoughts that came in. And I guess, again, this is more of the same. People are worried about 5G cell towers. No town or school food composting came up. Twin Brooks Park is being addressed as we speak. I don't know that drug use is necessarily a conservation issue, but someone wrote that in. But litter came up more than once, that there are people dumping garbage on private property and there's a lot of litter around. Yeah, we don't need to go through that one. And we talked about that already. So I think I'm gonna escape, because I think some of these go into the weeds on some of the bigger picture things that we talked about. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to fill in the blanks or send this off once Vicki has a chance to have a look at it. Any questions for Mel or myself?
Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Sorry if I went too fast.
No, that's good. There's the poop bags.
There's the poop bags. So this is at one of our preserves. I work for the Aspetuck Land Trust. This is one of our preserves, and
Right.
we have not one, but three signs. One, dogs leashed, please remove dog waste, and there is no poop fairy. And instead of encouraging people to clean up, they leave the bags there.
Right. People don't
took
really
this
pay a
photo.
lot of attention.
Yeah, the bag,
They see
the
a poop
actual,
bag and they leave their poop bag.
yeah, the signs are attracting the poop
Yeah.
bags.
Right.
poop stone.
It's
And poop bags are just so
It is-
counterproductive. It's ridiculous. If you don't take them with you, they're absolutely just.
Yeah. But they leave them as if, it's somebody else's property. It's somebody else's problem to pick them up. And so that's, I can feel the pain and the concern about putting a garbage pail there, because the
It's
garbage,
so disrespectful.
take it home, take your poop
You don't want
home
it.
before we start doing DNA testing and tracking.
There you go.
There you go.
Done. That's good. All right. Well, let's move on if we can. If we're all done with the survey, thank you again, Pam and everyone else who worked on that. I have on the agenda under waste reduction, the postcard mailing for recycling info. Now, somebody had already mentioned that John Massari could print updated recycle flyers. Is that correct? Flyers to tell the residents what's in, what's out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I just had him basically price out 4-color, 2 sides postcard. this was a postage paid thing that was sent out in 2012. I know
Yeah.
people hung on to it because I did. But if we were going to do it outside of the postage for 15,000 households, it would be about $13.95. And then if we wanted to inform further, because I know that Monroe and Easton use our transfer station, we could do more. And obviously the per piece cost goes down exponentially. So if we got them to pay for some of it, if we did 20,000, it's $15.95 or 7 cents a piece. So they go down quite a bit. If
Now
you,
that doesn't include the postage, right?
it doesn't include,
That's just his flyer.
this is just a print, that's just a printing cost. So
Right.
we would have to design it and put the information together, which wouldn't be hard. We can follow the same kind of design, and we have a lot of this information already on flyers that we've created.
I wonder if it
And
could
then-
be sent out with another town mailing, like when the town sends out a tax bill, or they send out whatever else they might send out to the whole town.
Mary shaking her head.
There's no room at the inn.
And
No, it was hard enough when I was on the senior commission, just trying to get like a 2-liner in there and to try to adjust everything. There's so much information in that mailer. So to put it on that, the trifold, which is what we were trying to do. And because you can't, as a separate flyer, it just puts the weight over, so they can't add anything else,
So it's more
unfortunately. But I mean, there are places, the town clerk newsletter, the senior center newsletter. I don't know, Ralph, if the economic development newsletter is going to get started again, or, the brochure, the monthly letter that used to get done. So there's other ways to add to those as well, like a lot of different ways to kind of touch.
Yeah, but you could also get a bulk mailing price on something like this. It's relatively cheap to send out on its own. Mari, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I meant
was
in
just gonna-
addition, Pam, not to take place of.
I was just gonna remind everyone of Mary's idea to contact the main 2 haulers in town and see if maybe it helps them to refresh people on what to put in, because then it reduces contamination. Maybe we could just see if they would do it. If we printed them, would they mail them with their bills, right?
Yeah, and I would like to get that list from George, whether it's a long or a short, on what the big contaminants are, because, again, that may help us, even on social media wide, if we send this out, that the one that Pam has said, hit it in a couple different ways, but if there's things that are like, somebody dumping all their, I can't remember if it was you or Mari or Pam, but seeing somebody dumping all their cardboard folded, boxes and everything at the dump in the plastic bag. So it just took away from the fact that they're bothering to do that part correctly. So, so just the top things that are getting disposed of incorrectly, we can still, put that as another offset too.
So anyway, we have pricing for it. If, as we get the NIPS money, if George wanted to use that for town education, we now have a little information about what it would cost to get it. So.
all right. The next thing I have on my agenda is I just left it on there from last time. The Business Resource Center. Do we have anything going on? The Business Resource Center.
I just resent that to Rena and Vicky for review, and I got a response that Rena is out until next week, I believe, or the end of this week. So
Okay, so
we'll stay on top of that. No
nothing
update
new there.
otherwise.
Okay.
I think she's out for a few weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, very nice.
okay.
Very nice.
Thought it said the 17th, maybe.
I thought I recalled seeing. Oh, I'm not sure. On our
It's
calendar, it says July 5th.
My guess is.
So I'm not sure.
We'll see. No rush. It's been months.
The next item I have is student involvement, TSY, and any school initiatives. Mari, April, anything you want to update us on there?
I don't think April's on.
Oh,
right,
April.
April? I don't think
Stop
I
again.
think she was on for a little bit.
Was on for a bit.
School stuff, I think we're just gonna revisit contacting schools to get ready for next year to kind of re-implement the plastic film recycling, the BIC recycling, the book drives that some of the schools ran, and seeing if any schools want to start the pollinator pathways for next year. I don't think we got momentum this year with those. Trying to think, not much else on the school front. We didn't have much support for reusable trays at the schools at this time, nor did we get good feedback on moving forward with food rescues across the district at the school. So we might pry into that a little bit further to see if there's any ways to get that going for next year. But students, just wanted to throw this out there for moving forward for next year. I'd like to have a little bit more structure to the Trumbull Sustainable Youth group. I'd like to put about 3 meetings on the calendar. And I thought the best way to do that is to have a link on the website under the Trumbull Sustainable Youth under our page with a list of the meetings. Because right now I think we have one from like last November that was listed on there. So instead of putting it directly on the page, we could have a link with the upcoming meetings for the year that we could update. And then also list monthly volunteer opportunities where we could have a link to where students can see they can help out at the monthly recycling drives. Maybe if any students are interested in getting together for cleanups on a monthly basis, having a little bit more structure to the group, I think would be helpful. So I'm wondering if we can just link to 2 different documents there, and then we can update it on the back end so we don't have to contact the town to update different things. And I think the students want to try to do the International Coastal Cleanup Day again in September. So I know it's a little early for planning that, but we can contact Save the Sound and see if we can host that cleanup event again. And I'd like to see if the students want to take a little bit more of a leadership role on planning that for September. So all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. And what else do I have? I don't know if we have anything new on the fundraising with your group, Janet, the New York Community Trust. I don't know if we've gotten anywhere with Sustainable CT or if we're just still in a holding pattern, trying to figure out what to fund and how to fund it, I think, right? Are we still sort of in the same holding pattern here, Janet, or is there anything new to report on that?
Well, I don't know, if Mel is still here. Yeah, okay. I don't know if you want to update, Mel, since you're a member of this group.
Yeah, so I do have an update, believe it or not.
Good.
So, we've been looking for a 501c3 to be a fiscal sponsor or intermediary for grants that come in. And I did discover that the pollinator pathway, which is a 501c3 now, can be our fiscal intermediary. They are going to hold money from the Aquarian award for the team in Ridgefield. So, and then I got the Aquarian award too. So I've got $5,000 to go
Yay.
to 501c3. So I spoke to the president of the Pollinator Pathway, and she said that she's going to be talking with her accountant to get the right paperwork, but it would be, they have agreed to hold the money for us. So they'll hold it for use for Trumbull on their pollinator pathway. We can write that they're going to hold it for 1,000 trees for Trumbull or whatever we want to use it for. So I'm hoping that maybe Janet's organization, if I can get the right paperwork, they can decide if it's acceptable for them to put it in the pollinator pathway / Trumbull account.
Yeah, I can get that over. I can get
Okay.
that to you. I'll send you the material that I got from the trust, from the New York Community Trust. And it usually takes about 3 weeks to vet an organization. once the response is received by them. So we can get that. That's great. And then I just need to know, how I explain where it goes. We can
Okay.
work that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. It was the guy that owns Nod Hill Brewery in Ridgefield got the Small Business Award, and he dedicated his money to Pollinator Pathway Ridgefield for a tree replanting along the Norwalk River. So it's a very specific thing that they want to use that money for. So I'm like, hey, we could do the same thing. And so Pollinator Pathway said yes. They will work on that with us, which is great. And, it's such a small group. It would just be easy for us to access the money as we go along and we decide what to do with it, for whether it's tree purchasing or whatever. So we can draw on that. So I thought that was pretty good news.
Yeah, I think you buried the lead on this, though. If
Yeah.
anyone missed it, Mel
Yeah.
won
Buried the lead.
Aquarian Environmental Award this year for her tireless work on behalf of the town of Trumbull. So congratulations, Mel.
Yay, thank you. It was a nice, fabulous surprise. And I thank to Pam and to Mary for surprise nomination for me. I was just totally blown away. So it was just a great thank you to you guys for this. Feels good.
Thank you.
Feels good to be, acknowledged for 30 years of work. So, thanks.
Yeah. And then you got a free party. Yeah.
And I got a free party. That's right, at the zoo. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yes, so thank you. It was very exciting. And we get money. Yay.
Yeah.
To use for good stuff.
Mhm.
Great.
All right, well, that's all I have on my agenda, so that's a good way to end it, unless anybody else has anything else to
But wait,
add.
there's more. I have a
Oh, wait, there's
question.
more?
I have one quick question, and it's probably better to take it offline, but I'm going to throw it out here because we have at least 1 week where we're going to have a table at the farmer's market. I was thinking that it would be a good idea to have a table banner made, and I think they're fairly inexpensive at FedEx office, like $30. So is there money? Mary, do you know, is there money for that in our little?
Yes, I was actually going to suggest that as well for the, if need be for the, if the NIPS doesn't work out, that sounds so weird. But if that funding doesn't work out, because we are still collecting from Bay State, and then HelpSee just started this past Saturday. I think they had all of 7 people that signed up, but that, so that went out a little late, unfortunately, from Amanda. But yeah, so there is money there to access. So that should give us a little base for things.
So I thought it would, because the table is going to be used for multiple purposes around sustainable Trumbull, recycling, et cetera. I thought I would do like the sustainable Trumbull name and logo as it exists now, and then probably put the Pollinator Pathway logo on it too, if that's okay with everybody, but I'll send it around before I execute. And feel free to join June 30th from 4 to 7 at Nichols for the first farmers market table that we're going to host. I've secured the 4 tables this year, but for the ones that we're not going to use for sustainable Trumbull, I'm going to use for Master Gardener, Connecticut, Yukon Master Gardener table.
And I just said, sorry, just a final, just for Mel, because I know you're busy with everything. But I did look at the Norwalk tree ordinance versus our ordinance. So I've been kind of working on that. There's also Hartford has a pretty good one. Theirs is more of the committee. So there's different things. Ours was not very brief, but ours was pretty brief, and it's more like as by the state statute. So then you'd refer to the state statutes. So I am bringing some of the things in, and then I'll go over when you have time, and Pam as well, if she's got time to go through. And there are certain things. Do we want a tree account, a legacy program? The master plan, which I know you started from your own document. So there's things like that to work in, but hopefully I'll be kind of done with that this week early this week, to then go through to see if you think that's a good starting point, that seems like we have everything. Then how do we kind of pare it down to just hit the highlights, or do we want it kind of as robust as Norwalk's is? And some of it on the side of penalties seems to, in Norwalk, they want your home if you cut a tree down. So it's, they've gone from like where we were $25 to, this kind of a thing. So, so there's a lot of different areas, but I think it was very well done. So anyways, going through that, and we'll see where we end on that when you have time.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for doing that. That's great. I appreciate that. And I know our DEP forester, she's probably had her baby now, so she'll be on maternity leave for a little while, but we can work on this in the meantime, which is great. Thanks, Mary.
All right, is that it? Is everyone all said and done? Anyone who wanna, any other questions, comments? All right,
I think so.
thanks, everybody. Congratulations again, Mel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
All your
Thank you
excellent
very
work.
much. Look, I got a really cool.
Congrats, Mel.
Look at that.
Nice.
Very
Very
exciting.
exciting. All
And
right.
Quinn, it was nice to meet you.
Yes.
Thanks.
We'll be using you.
Quinn.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really nice to kind of just watch a little bit and get to know a little bit more about Trumbull's sustainable initiatives.
Yeah.
Sounds like, I mean, I like your kind of the vibe of this kind of group, and I hear your frustrations when you guys aren't
Yeah.
being like listened to. So I'm definitely gonna be reaching out to Sustainable CT and also just who I'm working with here at MetroCog to see how I can help out. And please send me along anything that you think would be of value to me, and if there's any tasks that you want me to assist you on. So yeah, it was really great to meet all of you guys too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Hey,
Quinn.
thank you. Hey, thank you. And Quinn, we're usually not this grouchy. We're just
Speak for yourself.
All right.
so Ralph, can you send me your email address and I'll send you the riparian buffer?
Sure, happy to.
Thank you. That's great.
All right, guys.
Great.
Thanks,
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
thanks,
Have a good night.
Bill.
Everyone.
All right.
Thanks for setting it
Yeah.
up.
Thank
Bill.
you, Bill.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.